We're talking about multiplying matrices. They're much more complicated than adding them, but they're not impossible at all. All right, so let's talk about when can you multiply them, when can't you? If you have two matrices that are exactly the same size and they're both square matrices, they have to both be square, then they'll easily multiply. But you don't have to be square matrices to multiply. You can do some of them will mix, some of them won't. Okay, like certain combinations will be okay and others won't. So how can I tell you whether or not it's gonna work or not? Because you don't want to go through a big long problem like this of multiplying all these numbers together if it turns out you can't do it. So here's how you can tell. You know how to do it? Guessing that if they're the same dimensions. Nope. Only if they're both square matrices will the same dimensions thing work. But for instance, one that's like this, which is how many, what if I say 3 by 2 or is it 2 by 3? Which one is it? Because it's rows and then columns. And how many rows does this have? 2 by 3. So this one's a 2 by 3. If you have two 2 by 3s, you can't multiply them. I'll show you when you can multiply them and when you can't. That's one of the first things you really have to understand is when can I and when can't I. All right, so let's look at it this way. Every time you set up a problem, or actually these are worksheets, so they're already set up, thankfully. You don't have to write all these numbers down. What you need to do is underneath each matrice, you write what it is. This is a 2 by 3. This one is a 3 by 2. And here's how you can tell if it will work to multiply them or not. You check these two numbers, the last number of the first set and the first number of the last set, and if those two, the ones like this, are the same, then it'll work. If they're not the same, then it won't work. And if it'll work, like this one where they're both 3s, then your resulting answer matrix, the little box you're going to put it in, will be a 2 by 2. You see that? So writing it out like that tells you two things. Not only does it tell you if it'll work, but it also tells you what the answer will be, a 2 by 2 matrix. So how can you take something that's 2 by 3 and something that's 3 by 2 and make it an answer that's a 2 by 2? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, you can. And I'll show you how in just a minute. But I'm going to start with a simpler one. All right, we're going to start with this one. Now, first thing I'd want you to do is write these down. So everybody please write these down on the worksheet. You won't have to, but right now you do. Doesn't take very long. And underneath them, write what they are. In this case, it's super simple. They're 2 by 2s. And then always circle these two. And if they're the same, then you're going to be able to do it. This saves you time because all it takes is one time where you go through all the process and then only at the end do you figure out it's not going to work. That it'll save you enough time that it would have been well worth it to always check and make sure it works before you do the problem. Okay, so that one works, and the answer is a 2 by 2 matrix. All right, so how do you actually do it? Well, this is a kind of problem where it's good to start with the end in mind. As in, I know my answer's got to be a 2 by 2. So I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to make room so that I can have an answer matrix that is a 2 by 2. And just for now, just put 4 dots in, because that'll remind you that that's got 4 little answers that are going to go in there in the 2 by 2. Now, remember this, if there's nothing between them, that implies a multiplication. So this is a multiply problem. And I want to remind you, in each matrix, there's a name for each spot. The name for this spot is row 1, column 1. Remember that? Yes. The name for the spot underneath it, and by the way, I wasn't just wasting your time when I was teaching you how to do that. It was sort of like Mr. Miyagi making the kid do the wax on and the wax off in the movie Karate Kid. He didn't understand why he was waxing this stupid car, but he was creating muscle memory for when he was going to use his judo later, as you do blocks with your hand like this, and it's a lot like the waxing the car. Okay, anyway, I was teaching you something that you'd need to know later. Row 1, column 1. What's this one over here? Row 1, column 2. Down here? Row 2, column 1. And this one? Row 2, column 2. All right. So what those are directions to tell you what to multiply to put there. So you should multiply row 1 with column 1. All right, so let me show you. Row 1 is right here. And in the second matrix, column 1 is right there. So we're going to use those 4 numbers and put them together and put them in that spot as my answer. Right here, I'll have my answer. Okay? So now, how do you get those 8 and the -2 and the 9 and the 4 all put together? And there's got to be, somehow there's multiplying involved. And the simplest thing would be to just multiply them all together, but it's not that simple. Who's got another idea of what it might be? What do you think? Good idea, but wrong. A lot like that. Yes? No. Thank you for trying. Yes? No, there's no subtracting involved at all. You are so wrong. Yes? Yes, you're going to do some multiplying and some adding. I'll give you that, but you haven't said it right yet. Only using the ones that are yellow. Tell me exactly what to do. You want to try again? What times what, and then what plus what, and... You want to try it again? Okay, thank you for trying. Yes? It's not 8 times 9. You want to try again, Mr. Wrong?
8 plus 4.
Thank you for trying. Yes?
8 times -2, 9 times 4.
Yes, there it is. Those 2 multiplied. And then these 2 multiplied. And then what? Add them. All right, so let's do it in our head. What's 8 times -2? -16. What's 9 times 4? 36. So -16 and +36, +20. So what goes in this answer? The answer is 20. You put a 20 there. I know. Yep. But once you get used to it, they go really fast. Really. It is. Well, I didn't say it was that easy. Actually, I started off saying it was a little more complicated than yesterday. All right, so let me show you. If I was going to do the next box, it goes much quicker once you get used to it. Row 1, column 2. Row 1 is, let me get my highlighter out here. Row 1, column 2. 8 times 3 and 9 times 0. And then add them.
27.
8 times 3, 24. And then add 0 makes 24. See, that doesn't take that long. Correct. You're always going to be going across over here, and you're always going to be up and down over there. Okay, so it's like doing that thing where you have to go like you make a circle with this hand and only go straight up and down with this hand, or rubbing your tummy and patting your head, and then you try to like change directions, and then all of a sudden it makes me a little confused when I have to like going up, down. Okay, anyways, can't even see that at home. So, moving on. If we're going to do this one and this one, just for practice right now, I'd like you to try both of those and write them. Try the 2 green ones I just circled and write them. Thank you. The 2 green ones on the board, figure them out. Don't say them, write them on your paper. They're easy once you get the hang of it. JK, what'd you get? You're so right. And raise your hand if you had 15 for that other one. All right, good. Okay, so how did we get that last one? Our row 2, column 1 goes like this. I'm going to use green this time. Row 2, column. Oh. I went the wrong way.
What's your column?
Row 2, column.
1.
Do I want? I think people were asking about row 2, column 2. I don't know, but there, that one. So that one came out to that one. Okay, because that was 5 times 3 is 15, and then anything times 0 is 0, so it's just 15. All right, any questions? All right, then. I'm going to give you one that's a little more challenging. What? All right, let's figure out, first of all, will it work? 2 by 2, 2 by 2, right? That works, and the answer will be 2 by 2. You go over here, you make a 2 by 2. And then your answer here, row 1, column 1. Let's just do the first one. Row 1, column 1. A goes with E, and it gets multiplied, so what do we call it? AE plus BG. Very good. A times E is AE. B times G is BG. And you add them. AE plus BG. So it gets a little weird when you have variables, but it's the same exact process. All right, now let's try one more. This one looks like it won't work, so let's test it quick. It's a 3 by 3, isn't it? And then what's this? A what by what? Rows by columns. So will it work? No, because I look at these two, and they're not the same, so it won't work. All right, we'll do more of this right after lunch. And we're back from lunch, and we're talking about multiplying. First thought is, can I multiply these two? Well, how should I find out? I should write down what they are. It's a what by what and a what by what. Take the one that you need. Which one do you need? Awesome, thank you. It's a 2 by 3, 2 rows and 3 columns. All right, and by a what? 3 by 2. So will it work? Yes, it will, because those are the same. And the answer will be 2 by 2. I'd like you to see if you can get the right answer for this one. Don't have to write the problem down. You can just look up at the board for the numbers. Just write the answer down. Good luck. What's this?
Another note I passed in.
Okay. Yeah, just right here. Just stay here. No, it's all right.
All right, I'll read it to the class. It says,
All right. So hopefully you have got a 2 by 2 matrix started as your answer. And it should be row 1, column 1. And the way I like to do these is if I know this is column 1, I just go column 1, column 1. This is column 2, column 2. And then I can go back and fill in the rows. Row 1, row 1. Row 2, row 2. To me, that's faster. But you can do it however you want. Okay, then final answer for it is, to get this spot, I do row 1. I'll use my little highlighter thingy. Row 1 with column 1. And now the 3 is times the 0. That makes 0. The negative 1 is times the 1. That makes negative 1. And the 6 is times the 2, and that makes 12. What's 12 and negative 1 and 0 make? 11. Raise your hand if you had 11 in that spot right there. Okay, good. Then you know how to multiply matrices. Okay, I'll do another one just for practice. Row 1, column 2. I'm going to do this one right here. Row 1, that's right here, column 2. Up, there, sort of even works. All right. And the negative 1 goes with the 0, that makes 0. Negative 2, 1 goes with the 2, and that makes negative 2. And then positive 2, and negative 2, and positive 2, and 0 makes 0. Raise your hand if you had 0 in that spot. Okay, good. All right. Last thought is this isn't the only kind of multiplying you can do. You can do this still. And you just multiply everything by 2. When they just put a number on the outside, that's technically a 1 by 1 matrix. Right? But if I do a 1 by 1 and I call this a 2 by 2, you see how it looks like it wouldn't work? Okay, so this is special. It's a this kind of a matrix. We don't call it a 1 by 1 matrix. We just call it a scale factor. It's meant to multiply everything in there by 2, so it's just going to double everything, so it's got a scale of 2, twice as big. Okay, so anyway, you can still multiply that way without having to follow the rules. And don't forget, when you sometimes, you could make these more complicated by doing something like this. X, Y, Z squared, and Q being multiplied by X plus 5, 7, 12, and y minus 11. And if I had to do this, I'd go, it's a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 2, so I know it works, and the answer is going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. And then to do, for instance, this spot, I need row 1, column 1, and there's row 1, and there's column 1. And how do I get x plus 5 times by x? No, it's not 2x. X squared
5x.
plus 5x. And then what do you do with the other part?
12y.
Y and the 12 makes 12y. And you add. So I add 12y. 12y. There we go. And all of that needs to fit in that one little spot, which is hard to do, but that's the right answer. So sometimes your little spots are kind of big, actually, when you have multiple terms in there. Okay, but it still works the same exact way. All right, you got a whole bunch of time to work on your homework then.